When we discuss the most legendary dunkers of all time, it's inevitable that Vince Carter will be inserted into the conversation. He provided us with some of the most entertaining highlights we can ever ask for, and our jaws had no other choice but to drop to the floor out of pure amazement. He's had a lot of spectacular plays for several NBA teams throughout his career, but none more memorable than the kind of things he would do as a member of the Toronto Raptors.
Vince driving over, Stackhouse to the cup.
Side Carter at the foul line. All the way.
With a right-handed monster
Give it right back. Oh, 360 by Vince Carter.
The city of Toronto was in love with their superstar, and for Vince Carter, that love was definitely mutual. Toronto helped catapult Vince into the man he is today, but somewhere along the line, things changed. Things went downhill fast, and it all started in the year of 2001. Many believe that year was the beginning of the end for Vince's sanity in Toronto. So let's all jump into a time machine and revisit the 2001 NBA playoffs. Carter was one of the top players in the world. With Tracy McGrady no longer by his side, he had to put the team on his back. And in the Eastern Conference semifinals, he was going to war with the MVP of the league, Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia 76ers. It was the matchup every fan was waiting for, full of epic performances. Vince would score an impressive 50 points in Game 3 of the series, and soon after follow that up with a 39-point game, facing elimination in Game 6. The battle was certainly living up to the hype, and the winner would be decided on May 20th, coming down to the best two words in sports, Game 7. Both teams were ready to leave it all on the line in order to advance to the conference finals. But there was one problem. When everyone was preparing for the most important game in franchise history, Vince had somewhere else to be. He had other plans. It just so happens that Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals was on the very same day of his college graduation at the University of North Carolina, which perhaps made him the most busiest man in the world that day. But Carter wasn't worried. He believed he can pull it off. He believed he can fit both events in his schedule and come out the other side completely unscathed, which looked like the case. He seemed to be handling the challenge pretty easily. While the rest of the team was in Philadelphia, Vince hopped on a private jet and took off to North Carolina the night before the big game, promising that he would make it back in time to handle business against the Philadelphia 76ers. The morning would arrive, and so would he, landing in Chapel Hill around 9 a.m., excited to finally walk across the stage and accept his diploma in African American Studies, and fulfilling a promise he once made to his mother, the promise to go back and finish his degree. Carter was seen with a huge smile across his face throughout the entire ceremony. But then, the time came for Carter to quickly say goodbye to his friends and family, get back on the plane, and head back to Philly for the most important game of his career. They would take off around 11 a.m. and soon arrive around 12 o'clock, which was 5 hours before the game. Plenty of time to get his mind straight and prepare for the bright lights. However, if you take a look at this interview that took place sometime before the game, something seems a little off about Vince. Something doesn't quite seem right.
Vince Carter, the newest graduate of the University of North Carolina, has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
I'm just glad it's over. Just ready to play.
What was this day like for you? Can you describe the emotions involved in this day and what it's been like?
It's really nothing to describe. You know, it's just time to play basketball. Everything else is put behind me right now, and that's all I can think about.
I mean, yeah, sure, he said all the right things, but it's just something about his demeanor that seems very strange. Could it be that when he arrived to the arena, he possibly got into an argument with his teammates? I mean, that's not entirely out of the question, because there were actually reports that some of his teammates did not agree with his decision to leave town the night before their big game. They believed it was very unprofessional for him to do that.
There were some people who questioned, including some of your teammates, who questioned your decision to go to North Carolina considering the magnitude of this game. What's your response to that criticism?
I have no response. You know, I have no comment for it. And you know, the fact of the matter is I'm here, I'm ready to play.
The game would get underway. It was showtime. Time to put all the drama behind them. Time to deliver a victory for Toronto. And for Carter, it looked like the exhausting round trip wasn't really having an effect on him at all. I mean, it's freaking Vince Carter. He's used to being up in the air.
The lob.
got what they wanted.
Vinsanity reigns supreme.
Vince was playing out of his mind, putting up 20 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. Oh yeah, and he played every minute of the entire game with 0 turnovers. The man wanted it. You can just tell he wanted it so bad. Then the moment came. The moment where champions are made. With 2 seconds left on the clock, Raptors down by a single point. Everyone in the building knew the ball was going to Vince Carter's hands. And this was how things would unfold.
Curry has it. Carter trying to get free. Carter.
Now let's stop right there. The ball is in midair. Carter must be thinking, how am I going to celebrate when this goes in? Am I going to invade the stands? Am I going to jump on the scorer's table? Or should I just stand still, holding a pose, while my teammates dogpile me? Well, let's decide after I make this shot. Alright, press play.
The buzzer. No good. And the Sixers hold on and advance to the conference finals.
Yeah, Vince had no other choice but to head back to the locker room and face defeat. After the game, Vince would say, about halfway, I was thinking it was good. And then, oh no. And you always hope for that bounce where it hits the back of the rim and bounces up and goes in. But it didn't happen. When Vince arrived back home in Toronto, he said that the very first thing he did was go to the court and perform the same exact shot he missed a few hours earlier, just for peace of mind. Then would share with us that he made that shot 7 out of 7 times, something he wished would have happened at the end of Game 7. The next morning, Carter expected his team to be by his side to help cope with the devastating loss, but unfortunately, the exact opposite occurred. He would find his teammates on the news, basically blaming him for why they lost the game. They believed what Carter did by just up and leaving the night before got everyone out of rhythm and messed up their routine. And this is what Charles Oakley had to say.
If Vince doesn't go to graduation,
That right.
are you guys in a conference final?
No doubt.
No doubt.
Hands down.
So as you can tell, Vince was pretty upset with the whole situation. He got a heavy load of criticism from the team, when all he expected was support and a shoulder to lean on. And that's exactly why people thought that day was pretty much the beginning of the end for Carter's days as a Raptor. The following few seasons, Vince would begin to experience some knee issues, missing a ton of games, and the fans began to turn on him, giving him a brand new nickname, Half Man, Half a Season. And as expected, Vince grew tired of the disrespect and just wasn't happy there anymore.
Did you want to be traded from Toronto, and why did you want to be traded?
It was just time for a new change. When you go home after a loss, you're not happy. But when you go home after a win and you're still just not quite happy, you should enjoy your win. And it just wasn't there anymore, just for whatever reason. It was always kind of starting over, and it was tough, you know.
So at the end of the day, yeah, Vince can say that graduating was one of the best days of his life, but I think it's safe to say that it will always leave a bittersweet taste in his mouth because of how the day ended.
You know, I got to experience the ultimate high and the ultimate low all in one day. The high of graduating and fulfilling a goal, and the low of missing the game-winning shot, Game 7, to go on to the conference finals.
Alright guys, let me know down in the comments below what you think of this crazy story. Make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.